I invite the song leaders to come forward as I introduce the opening hymn. Our opening hymn this morning is special because we are singing it before the children leave for RE. They have been learning this hymn, and we are delighted to sing it as a full congregation. The words can be found in the gray hymnal, number 118, and also on the screen. Please rise in body or spirit. And now we'll have our time for all ages.
Good morning. My name is Beth Curtis, and I'm the Director of Lifespan Religious Education here at BBUUC. And I just want to say happy spring. Yesterday was the vernal or spring equinox. Vernal is just another word for spring. CUPS, or our Covenant of Unitarian Universalist Pagans, will celebrate Ostara today, a celebration honoring balance and renewal as spring arrives. Today, rather than a story, I wanted to tell you about a very special place that will help us lift up the UU value of, this week, interdependence. This place only exists for a very short time every year, and it's called a vernal pool. Now, if you're walking through the woods in late winter or early spring, you might not even notice it at first. It looks like a puddle or maybe a shallow pond filled with rainwater and melting snow. But it has no stream attached. It's just still water that has gathered in a low place in the forest. And if you pause and you listen, you might hear a soft chorus. Beep, 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 beep. Those are spring peepers. They're tiny little tree frogs, and they've been hibernating. They're like smaller than your thumb. And they've been hibernating all winter long beneath the leaves, waiting for the warmth to return. And now they have come to the vernal pool. But why here in a temporary pool of water? In a few months, it's going to dry up. Well, because of that, there are no fish to eat their eggs. So the peepers and other tree frogs lay their eggs, called a clutch of eggs, in relative safety. And soon those eggs hatch into tadpoles, wriggling and growing. But they are not alone. Spotted salamanders slip silently into the pool at night to lay their own clusters of jelly-like eggs. Fairy shrimp that are tiny ancient creatures that swim upside down have already hatched. Their eggs survived the hot summer, the freezing winter, and have now hatched into abundancy. Insects arrive too. Dragonflies and damselflies lay their eggs in the pool. Before they ever take to the air, they spend months underwater as fierce little hunters called nymphs. For a few short weeks, the vernal pool becomes a whole team, a whole world, and a team, teeming with life, one that depends upon the water staying just long enough. As the tadpoles and salamander larvae grow and transform, they feed on algae and tiny creatures like the fairy shrimp. The insect larvae feed on plants and each other, which is sometimes a good thing because, as seen here, one is eating the spring's first mosquito larvae. Yay. Everything is connected, each creature shaping the life of others. But as spring turns to summer, the days grow warmer, and the water slowly, quietly disappears. But that's not the end of the story. The young frogs and salamanders, now with legs, leave the shrinking pool and disappear into the trees and the cool, damp earth of the forest. And they carry something with them: the energy, the nutrients, and the life of the vernal pool itself. Through the spring and summer and fall, they eat insects in the forest, helping keep those populations in balance. And they become food for hawks, owls, snakes, and larger animals. As salamanders burrow through the soil, they enrich it, carrying nutrition to the roots of the trees, allowing them to be healthy hosts to the tree frogs and to produce the leaves that will help form next year's vernal pool. So even after the water is gone, the life of the vernal pool continues, spread throughout the forest in countless small and unseen ways into the web of the life of the forest. This is interdependence. And we are like that forest, each of us carrying something from the places and people that helped us grow. What nourishes us does not stay with us. It moves outward through our choices, our kindness, and our care for the world around us. And that is why our UU faith teaches us to honor interdependence, because everything we do becomes part of the living web that holds us all.
Good morning and welcome, one and all, to our Unitarian Universalist community, Buckman Bridge Unitarian Universalist Church, also known as BBUUC, which you've already heard this morning. My name is Mary Avery, and my pronouns are she and her. We are so happy that you have joined us this morning. We encourage our visitors to stop by the welcome table and get a name tag if you have not already done so that we may get to know you by name. Everyone is welcome to stay after the service for beverages, refreshments, and fellowship. We set up some chairs in the back so everyone can be included in conversation and snacking. Since we are always learning how to best to include everyone, please let us know if you have a need that is not being met. We encourage all to help us foster a worshipful atmosphere this morning. Please put your phone on silent or airplane mode or turn it off. Right now, okay. Last week, Jennifer taught us 2 American Sign Language movements to quietly show appreciation or agreement. And since Reverend Carmen's sermon is on the 6 needs of mourning, these quiet gestures will be most welcome today. By making a fist or an S in American Sign Language and nodding it in the air, you can show yes, yes, okay. And holding up both hands spread apart with wiggling fingers, also known as jazz hands, is applause in ASL. Both are preferable to dropping one's head and nodding off. Okay. Okay. Our hope is that you will find a safe, welcoming, and beloved community here and that you can imagine yourselves being a part of it. Again, welcome. I now invite Ted Clisby to come forward to light the chalice this morning. Our worship theme this month is paying attention. The coming of spring demands our attention in its primal force of promise and growth. This week, we observed the spring equinox. And also this year, the Muslim community in Jacksonville and around the world ended the holy month of Ramadan with the celebration of Eid al-Fitr, traditionally a time of emerging from the month of fasting by celebrating with family and friends, with special and abundant foods, and with gifts. This year, in Iran and the Middle East, as in so many other years, the peace and promise of Eid al-Fitr and spring itself is desecrated by war. Our reading from Elena Westbrook offers us a way to hold that peace and promise for the world right here, right now. Sometimes the only thing we can do is be still for a moment to remind ourselves of what is real, the sun that rose this morning, the dirt under our feet. This hour, try just to be present in each moment as it unfolds. Your simple attention is what makes these moments holy. As Unitarian Universalists, we intentionally do not have a shared mandated creed that everyone must follow. Rather, we have shared values that guide us with intention in our lives, our community, and in the wider world. At BBUUC, we express these intentions, our intentions, to live by these values in our congregational covenant. And I invite you to remain seated and join with me in saying the words which appear on the screen and in your order of service. We covenant to engage one another with honesty, kindness, and respect, to value diversity, seek understanding of our differences, and practice gracious accountability with care, love, and empathy. We make these promises to those who are here and those yet to come, so that we may be a safe, welcoming, and beloved community of acceptance, learning, and transformation. Please rise in body or spirit to sing our call to worship. You'll find the words in your order of service and on the screen.
Good morning. My name is Adele, pronouns she and her, and I was asked to give a short talk on what UU means to me, as well as specifically BBUUC for the Stewardship Drive. And, you know, I'll start at the beginning. Like many of us UUs, I was raised Catholic, 12 years Catholic school, met my husband at a Catholic high school dance. We got married in the church, raised our kids in the church, until I was 42. And our 17-year-old son drowned in a swimming accident. Something like that will shake you, shake everything that you believe, everything you think about the world. And it sent me on kind of a spiritual quest. Why did this happen? What happens after we die? All of that. So I read a lot. I talked to people about different religious beliefs, different cultural beliefs, what happens after we die, all of that. And in the process of that, I realized that there are so many commonalities among the different religions of the world, and Catholicism is only one of them. And I realized that the dogma that I was taught was the be-all and end-all was just a set of beliefs of one religion. After a while, I started feeling like I'd outgrown any one religion. You know, one wasn't enough. So what was in the back of my mind was a UU church I had been in once in the 1980s for a funeral. And what I remembered was there were no statues, there were no special prayers, you know, and I thought, I wanted spirituality, but I didn't want the dogma. So this was in Greeley, Colorado, and I found the UU church, and the first time I walked in, I felt like this is home. This is what I should have been doing from the beginning. So, I was an active member out there, ended up moving, following kids to St. Augustine. I was a member down there. And when we ended up planning a move to Jacksonville, the people at the UU down in St. Augustine said, well, there are a couple of UUs up in Jacksonville, but BBUUC is big and active and lively, and check that one out. So I did. And again, it's like coming home. I feel like when I'm at BBUUC, I'm with my tribe, I'm with my people. I had some trepidation about moving to the South because it's the South. And no matter where you are, I was at a little BBUUC out in Palatka, and it's our people, liberal point of view, open-minded people. So to me, this is family. These are my people. No matter how discouraging it gets out there, I know I come here and I'm with like-minded people. So, I know that is a similar story to a lot of people here. A lot of us came from somewhere else and had to do a lot of spiritual work to decide to come here. We weren't just, some were born into it, but some weren't. Some had to even go against their family beliefs to become a Unitarian. And so if it means as much to be here to you as it does to me, then, try to get your pledge in before March 30th. They need that for their bookkeeping. And, I'm just glad to be here. So that's my story.
Thank you, Adele. As Penny Peterson and Hunter Story come forward to assist with the offering, please know that your generous gifts support the mission and work of this church. We have modern ways of giving on our website in the order of service, and we still engage in the practice of passing the plate. Regardless of your choices about giving, we invite you to participate in this practice by taking the plate when it comes to you and passing it along your row. When the morning offering has been received, I'll invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in singing our offertory hymn, number 123, Spirit of Life.
So good morning, everyone. My name is Carmen Emerson. I'm the affiliated minister here. I'm glad to be back with you in this sixth in our series on the needs of mourning. We've arrived at need number 6, which is receiving ongoing support from others. Today, we're at receiving ongoing support from others. Throughout this series and today, I've included in each one of these sermons this foundational insight from Dr. Alan Wofelt. Grief is a normal, necessary part of human life. It is first and foremost a spiritual journey because it forces us to examine our most fundamental beliefs about why we are here and what life means. And didn't you just hear that in the testimonial about why people come looking for us? So we hit those points in lives where we're questioning everything we thought we knew, and we find our way here. One thing we've been examining over the course of this sermon series is suffering. Grief is suffering, and suffering is often prelude to theological and existential questions about the meaning and purpose of our lives. Discernment and introspection are part of what we do together as a faith community of Unitarian Universalists because, as human beings, we are always changed by our losses, and we need ways and means and companions who will not look away from our suffering, but who will be with us in it as we are grieving and mourning. The world's major religious traditions address suffering as an inevitable result of attachment, that's Buddhism, as the consequences of accumulated actions throughout past and current lifetimes, that's Hinduism, as a test of one's faith, that's part of Islam and Judaism, and as inherent to humanity because we are, after all, fallen creatures of original sin, deserving of the possibility of eternal suffering in hell if we don't straighten up and fly right. That's the Christianity that many of us have come from as we found our way into Unitarian Universalism. These same traditions call for detachment and perseverance, good deeds, patience, obedience, and submission as human responses to suffering, responses that can be redemptive and transformative in one's relationship to the divine, the sacred God. In other words, this is a theological justification for suffering. As a hospital chaplain, I have often witnessed physical suffering exacerbated by spiritual and emotional suffering when a person who's lived a very faithful life begins to question, why isn't God answering my prayer? Why isn't my family getting a miracle, a cure, some kind of relief? Because according to the theology they have trusted, things should be different because they've practiced their faith as best as they could. But the miracles, the cures, the relief don't come, and then their suffering, again, it's just exacerbated because now, again, as we heard, everything I thought I knew, I actually may not know. So that suffering is just extended. As Unitarian Universalists, we find no theological justification in suffering, do not trust or ascribe to a supernatural system of punishment and reward, but rather acknowledge that, yes, suffering can be a consequence of our free will choices, and suffering is too often the predictable, demonstrable result of systemic injustice, and at times, suffering is simply beyond anyone's control, an unfair phenomenon inherent to the natural world of which we are a part, the natural world so beautifully described by Beth this morning. For us as Unitarian Universalists, meaning and purpose are found not in the suffering, but in the here and now human responses to it, responses of empathy and action and compassion. Our capacity to feel not just about, but with those who are suffering, and to comfort those from that place of empathy, It's about the actions we take individually and collectively in our plural world towards equity and justice, dismantling systems that sustain or exacerbate suffering, and our commitment to compassionately companion others on their journeys of resilience from despair to hope. Foundational to this series has been the understanding of grief as a spiritual journey, and also foundational to this series has been the understanding that grief and mourning are two different things. Grief is that internal process, that thinking, feeling, remembering, pondering. As I've shared before, death ends a life, not a relationship, and our grief is a lifelong reflection of our love. We learn to live with it, our hearts and love grow around it. Another way to think of this is that our grief is permanent in some way, but our mourning is an evolving process. So mourning is that external active process of talking, acting, doing, creating, and moving. As it relates to mourning, it's important to remember three things. There are no rewards for speed. You are the expert on your grief and will move through it as best you can. This is called dosing your grief. You move toward it and you move away from it. Some days you'll be able to manage it better than other days. This is very, very normal. There is a divine momentum to the process, small d, divine, to our mourning, meaning that there are no linear, orderly stages, but that grief and mourning are recursive. Again, we move between and among all of these needs that we've been talking about, always. And third, we must mourn without attachment to outcome, meaning that there is no final stage that we will reach when everything will be done. We don't get over our losses. Again, we reconcile ourselves to our losses. We learn to live with them. So on our journey to today's sixth need of mourning, we previously considered 5 additional needs of mourning, including acknowledging the reality of the death, feeling rather than avoiding the pain of the loss, remembering the person and creatures who died, developing a new self-identity, searching for meaning, and today we arrive at receiving ongoing support from others. So notice that I've highlighted the word ongoing here. That is because a person who is mourning will need support long after the event of the death of the person they love. We are very, very good about showing up during times of acute grief, meaning immediately prior to death, perhaps a hospital or home visit to support someone, both the dying person and their family, the people who love them. And then immediately after the death, we show up with words of condolence, sending a sympathy card, sending food, attending a memorial service, perhaps even helping with the memorial service. I'm thinking of how beautifully you do that here at Buckman Bridge for one another in this lay-led congregation. But ongoing support means being there for the long-term grief, which is a very lonely, lonely experience. So why is long-term grief so lonely? One, because of cultural expectations to move on and be done with our grief so that things can return to normal. Hint, they won't. Also because we've been taught the supremacy of self-sufficiency. Man, that is in our theological DNA from Ralph Waldo Emerson. We've been taught the supremacy of self-sufficiency, and we do not want to reveal our vulnerability or be a burden to other people. I've actually heard so many people in this congregation say those words. Well, I would have asked for help, but I didn't want to be a burden to anyone else. So that's part of that self-sufficiency thing, the reason that grief is lonely. We want to experience our grief not as a weakness that we need help with. There are also stigmas and mutual pretense that can attach to certain deaths. And I just want to offer a trigger warning here. You know, there are certain unexpected deaths like homicide, suicide, overdoses, AIDS. We know what happened, but we're not going to talk about it. There's a mutual pretense, an agreement to not talk about things, but then the person who's experiencing that grief now has a layer of shame added on top of whatever's happening. It's lonely because we will inevitably face that list of firsts that feel so hard. The first birthday, the first anniversary, the first holiday without our loved one. And it's also lonely because grief triggers grief. When we lose the next person or creature beloved by us, we can't help but remember the ones we've previously lost. And we grieve their absence long after society deems it appropriate to do so. I wonder what else you might add to this list of the reasons we are lonely in our grief. Anyone think of something I haven't named? It's okay. That's a big list already. So Dr. Wolfelt encourages us to be wise about mourning, perceiving it not as an enemy to be vanquished, but as a necessity to be experienced as a result of having loved another person or creature. In my Unitarian Universalist theology, I believe it is a sacred human act to be a steady part of a mourning person's support system. And I love that our UU values actually call us to the kind of awareness that makes such companioning effective, especially the value of interdependence, lifted up this morning. I promise Beth and I didn't send each other $5 to do that. So the value, it's just that those synchronous things that happen in worship services sometime, and I love when that happens. But there's the value of interdependence. That's part of the way that we companion other people. Practicing a covenantal faith helps us to create and sustain trusting friendships and relationships where vulnerability is recognized with reverence, not judged with contempt. Understanding that we are a part of one another and there will be times when each one of us will need others to help us make it. It's part of interdependence. There's also our shared value of generosity, which helps us to cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. As I said earlier, companioning someone through their journey from despair to resilience to hope. It's on their timeline, not ours, and that's where the generosity comes into play. We don't rush them through it, we're just with them for the time that it takes. No rewards for speed, divine momentum unattached to outcome. There's also our value of transformation, encouraging and holding one another as we adapt to our changing lives, our evolving identity, our changing world, not in isolation, but in community. And there's also the value of pluralism, recognizing that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, in experience, and in theology, and that one person's grieving and mourning will be influenced by this diversity. There are many ways to grieve and mourn, and what works best for one person, the way it looks for one person, may look differently for another person, and that's part of just valuing that kind of diversity. That is a theological value for us. Finally, as companions to someone who is grieving and mourning, we engage from our central value of love, the kind of agape love that invites us to practice the platinum rule, treating others as they ask to be treated, respecting their autonomy, their worth and dignity as they navigate into and through all of the needs of mourning we've been considering together throughout this series, including number one, acknowledging the reality of the death, reconciling head and heart to the actual physical absence of our beloved and all the absences and voids that reverberate from that central loss throughout our lifetimes. Number two, feeling the pain of the loss holistically. Again, we feel that pain cognitively, emotionally, socially, spiritually, and physically. Those we trust to offer us ongoing support are present to our pain without trying to minimize it or rush us through it, encouraging us toward the help we need to manage the symptoms and actively listening as we tell and retell and tell yet again our love stories of the person or creature we lost. Third is remembering the person and creatures who died As a companion offering ongoing support, we recognize that someone's grief and mourning will be unique to them because the relationships to that person or creature were unique to them. So patiently, curiously listening to them as they unpack all of that, as they talk about that unique relationship, is one way that we are present to offer ongoing support to others. The fourth need of mourning we've talked about is developing a new self-identity as we figure out who we are now and how we're going to move through the world without our beloved. This is an especially critical need where ongoing support can make such a difference. We need somebody who's not going to expect us to show up as who we've always been, but to show up, maybe we're a mess right now, maybe we're in the process of figuring it out, asking these questions, and we just need somebody to be a sounding board, not an oracle with answers. Just listen to me as I'm wrestling with these things. A steadfast companion in mourning will be present to your discernment as you need them to be, not answering the questions for you, but exploring the possibilities with you. The fifth need of mourning is the search for meaning. In the wake of the death of a person or creature we love and cared for, our beliefs and certainties about the world and our place in it are rocked to the very core of us. Again, we heard about that this morning in the introduction to our stewardship. We are rocked. Everything we thought we knew for certain, we don't. We're filled with doubt, questions, uncertainty, and that is painful. It is a very vulnerable place to be. As we begin rebuilding our lives, we're exploring questions like, in what and in whom do I now place my faith? With what and to whom can I trust my heart? What dreams, hopes, and expectations do I dare to risk now? Answering such questions takes time. This deep discernment takes time, and being a supportive companion who offers ongoing support is such a blessing to a person who courageously begins to work with this need of mourning. This returns us to the sixth need of mourning, receiving ongoing support from others. I've spent most of this sermon talking about what ongoing support means and how our UU values call us to be supportive companions to others who are navigating their grief and engaging all these other 5 needs of mourning. But as I begin to close, I want to shift in this sixth need of mourning, emphasizing a different word, the word receive. I wonder how many of you might say that asking for and receiving ongoing support from others makes you feel uncomfortable. I know at least 2 of you told me that before today's sermon. Like, I know that this is true, right? Receiving that ongoing support. If that is your impulse, may it draw your attention to the promise we make to one another and renew every Sunday, and in particular the words of our covenant that hold such strength and meaning in our need for one another. Engage one another. Kindness, respect, value diversity, understanding, practice, care, love, and empathy, safe, welcoming, and beloved, acceptance, learning, and transformation. With respect to both asking for and receiving ongoing support from one another as we work with our respective needs of mourning, here is a promise within the promise of our covenant. In my time of need, I know that I can count on you. In your time of need, please know that you can count on me. I understand that we bring diverse life experiences to our grief and that our mourning will look different because of this. I promise to do my best to understand this and be present to it with kindness and empathy. Hard as it is to ask for help and hard as it is to receive it, I want to feel safe here. I want us to feel safe here to ask for what we need. I want to trust that I am part of a loving community committed to our mutual transformation. And therefore, I will practice being present to others as I hope they will be present to me. In our journeys of grief and mourning, with care and respect, we'll help each other do together what we cannot do alone. I promise. I invite the song leaders to return. Gary is going to play our closing hymn, number 1002. It's in the teal hymnal. The words will also be on the order of service. Gary's going to play it through for us one time. If you'll please rise in body or in spirit and remain standing for the closing words. Please remain standing in body or spirit as Ted Clisby returns to extinguish the chalice with these words from Lori Stevens. We extinguish this flame, but not our focus. We quench this candle, but not our quest to observe this splendid world, to witness each other. These would continue all the moments of our lives. Blessed be, amen.